This is a NACL Comic Cons podcast. We dive into the Comic Con world. More than comics and cosplay, we bring you the stories of artists, authors, cosplayers, vendors, and exhibitors. We call it Comic Con Podcast. We did not have a meeting on that name. Follow us on Facebook or hit our website, naclcomiccons.com. We are on location at Board and Brush, 115 South Main in the Hutchinson, Kansas. Kimberly, Wyatt, Kendall, Paulie's behind the camera. Special guest. Who do we got?
Christopher Wietrick.
Hey, big thanks to Angie. What do we got going on here? What is Board and Brush, Kimberly?
It's a DIY wood signs and wood projects workshop. It's really neat. You can make all kinds of awesome projects without having to buy the supplies, and you get to hang out in this great environment.
Oh, yeah, it is cool. And that is the big thing. So instead of spending $200 on something that you had an idea at Lowe's, come right down here. And they have events, so you can actually schedule events. Corporate events, stuff like that, birthday parties.
Parties.
It's unlimited, Wyatt. Do you have any ideas?
Right now? Like after this?
Well, we're unlimited. All right, right after this. So,
Give Wietrick. Start doing Board and Brush.
Christopher, how was the Hutch Comic Con for you?
I thought it was fantastic. Wonderful turnout.
Thank you.
Of course, you gave me a great location there, so I got to see everyone walk in. And I just had a great time. It was great to see all my cosplay and artist and writer friends and see some new events here in town. And really excited to see where it goes. I thought the attendance was great, and I never had a dull moment. So it was a lot of fun walking around in costume, and I can't wait to do it again soon.
Oh, yeah. And you were at the front door. If you notice, it was you and Toy Depot. You guys both had the premium spots, because you are part of Smallville in a bigger way. Before we do that, we're going to do the update for the Hutch BooCon. Hutch Boo Comic Con coming at you October 26th in the Kansas State Fairgrounds. Only $5 for adults. Ages 15 and under free with an adult. Free events like zombie shootout, robot racing, ping pong ball roll. All those come with prizes. We kick off a kids costume contest at 1 p.m. Adult cosplay contest at 6 p.m. All those with cash prizes. Over 60 artists, authors, cosplayers, and vendors. Come join us at the Hutch Boo Comic Con. Follow us on Facebook, NACL Comic Cons. So that is coming at you when, Wyatt?
October 26th.
I'm glad you're on top of that. All right, so Christopher, you're kind of the genesis point, if we're going to go to the origin stories of Smallville, Smallville Festival, Smallville, Hutch turning into Smallville. How did that start? Who was involved with that?
Well, it started in the summer of 2012. Myself and two friends, Ben Eisminger and Casey McNeely, who both live in Lawrence, Kansas. We were all big fans of the television show Smallville, and we were about a year after the final episode, after the series finale, and we all just missed that show so much. And we were sitting around talking about it, and we came up with a few ideas of how Hutchinson was similar to the fictional town that they showed in that series. And we found a couple comparisons, like population. In the series, in the opening credits, they show a sign, "Welcome to Smallville," and the population is 42,001.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Well, Hutch has always been right around that 40,000 mark.
Yeah.
So we took that as a starting point and just started looking into the show and finding a few similarities here and there, looking into comics and graphic novels. And we found more than we figured we would. And
Really?
So in the fall, winter of 2012, I developed a comic that compared some of those things with some of the attractions here in Hutch, like Stratica, the Kansas Cosmosphere, some historic buildings downtown, and kind of pushed that out during Third Thursday. And the reception was immense. We kind of went viral. There was news stories all over the world, which was new for me because I was very introverted and shy. So I'm getting called all the time for interviews and stuff like that. Those guys stayed in Lawrence, and I came back to Hutch. So when it came time to really make a push for it, I was the guy here on the ground. And in June of 2013, I just showed up to city council one day and I said, "Hey, what do you guys think? Is this a possibility?" and 4 of the city council members said yes. And
Awesome.
the mayor was like, I don't know how I can go against the other 4, so he said yes. And June 21st, 2013 was the first day that Hutchinson was proclaimed Smallville, Kansas, the home of Clark Kent.
Wow. So the June 21st, 2013, how old would you have been? Math's
5.
hard. Something like that. That's a long time ago. And what I like is that you weren't just tying it into the TV show Smallville, but you were bringing in the other elements of comics and shows and movies. And Hutch, when you go through the history, when I sit down and talk to you and I get the tidbits from you, it is uncanny how Hutch resembles Smallville. It only makes sense to do it that way. So again, we're on location at Board and Brush. It's a DIY. Explain this to me again, Kimber. This is in your wheelhouse because there's a lot of paint around here. In fact, we've got
And glitter.
What do we got behind?
We got meat mallets behind us.
meat mallets behind. Who knows what happens here later?
It's a DIY workshop.
Yes.
I mean, you can make whatever you want.
Yeah, they've got some signage around here that do, and what's unique about it is that you could schedule an event, but I'm seeing that they might even serve cocktails here. I'm not sure about that. I'd have to ask about that.
I think you will.
We'll have to ask later. So, what got you to go from, hey, we ought to have Smallville? Well, you asked this one because you're curious about that.
Oh yeah, my question was like, what kept you keep doing it every year?
I think it was just the reception that we got that first year in 2013. After City Council, that June 21st, the Hutchinson News changed their entire front page. And there was stories about Smallville, Hutch's Smallville, all the facts that we had gathered. And we had a private party out at the park, at Cary Park that evening. And we had hundreds of people turn out just to experience what we were trying to accomplish. And we talked with a lot of people, and we got the idea that, well, this could turn into something big if we really try to tie the attractions of Hutch that we already have into Superman-related material. So in going into the end of 2013 and 2014, I thought to myself, well, we should have a festival to go with this day that if we're going to change it every year. So
Okay.
So it's like, do you think the reception has been good like every year since, or like even better? Like,
I do. There's been years where when we go get the proclamation, the mayor will have a Superman shirt on, or like this year,
Yeah, that was
when
awesome.
we went in, all the city council members put on a mask
Oh,
right
yeah, I remember.
before they
Yeah.
read
We
the
went there.
proclamation.
Yeah.
So just seeing the involvement in the community and the excitement to just play a small part in it, even if they're, government officials and they just put on a mask just to celebrate our event, that shows me that they see some value in it and want to keep doing it. So that's why I want to keep doing it.
Well, and that's when we decided to do Hutch Comic Con. Even though there was some pushback from other cons, we wanted to be part of Third Thursday, but also the Smallville Festival. Because there's been a Comic Con until up to this year that was called Smallville. We want to carry that tradition on. Now, something you did allude to is Third Thursday. For people that don't know what that is, Hutchinson has every third Thursday throughout the year downtown events. And so like during Christmas time, you're going to see a lot of Santa Clauses running around. Halloween's a ball down
it
here.
would be a great Santa Claus. It would be a great Santa
I'm
Claus.
working on that. Remember, I'm fasting today. What are we at? Where are we at?
So you can slip down the chimney.
Holy cow, I haven't eaten in like 27 hours. So,
I won't tell you what I just ate then.
don't share with me at all on that. Kim, you want to hit it off?
Oh, well, and tying into the Smallville show that was such an inspiration for you guys. Before that, and still today, how is Superman just your guy, your character?
You ever have a Superman shirt?
Yeah, he came ready.
I have several dozen Superman shirts.
Dozens.
I feel underdressed now.
Yeah, I don't know where it started. I know it was at a very young age, probably just reading comics that were lying around. I've always been a primary color guy. I like red and blue. That might have been part of it, but I think it was growing up in Hutchinson was part of it. And also the fact that when I was growing up, Christopher Reeve was the Superman.
The
And my
Superman.
name
Yes.
is Christopher.
Yeah.
So there was kind of a connection there, and I watched those movies constantly when I was younger, and I kind of started to relate to, hey, small town kid trying to find his place in the world, and I have dreams of having superpowers, of course.
Oh,
I think
don't
we
we
all do. But there was just a cool little relation to that character growing up in Hutch, and it developed over the years into an obsession, and it's still growing, I think, at 44 years old. So
When you talk about the Superman movie, I'm old enough, and how I related to his high school character, being a small town guy in Kansas, and you talk about being out of your element. You weren't on the football team. You didn't have the cheerleaders, but you could outrun the car and cut across the train. You guys you have no idea what I'm referencing there.
God no.
Well, Christopher Reeve is the greatest movie Superman ever.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Our producer Paulie
Yeah.
gives a really interesting fact. Most of the modern Superman designs are actually based off of Christopher Reeves.
Yes, that was kind of
Like-
interesting. He threw that little nugget out when we were having our pre-show.
Yeah,
on
and then
that.
I'm very interested. That fact you dropped to us when
You
we're
ready?
at our meeting,
Yeah, you ready?
you're gonna be blown away. Trust
All
me,
right,
bro.
so
Hit me. Hit
the
me.
original author of Superman, Jerry Siegel,
Yeah.
just out of high school, writes it in 1933. Did you know that Superman was created by a mad scientist and was actually gave telepathic powers, killed the scientist, and went on to take over the world was his goal. So Superman was originally written as a bad guy. And as they sat down and illustrated it with Schuster, they said, hey, let's rethink this and make him a good guy. So originally Superman was trying to take over the world, and that's kind of naughty. So in other words, when you're Bizarro Superman, you're actually original Superman. And on the video, I'm throwing a photo up of you as Bizarro Superman.
oh boy, look out! It's scary.
Talk about your cosplay a little bit and how you tie that into the Smallville Festival. Because it's not, you do it Thursday and Saturday.
Yeah, so
Maybe on Friday.
Every year I want to do something new that I haven't done before and tie it into Superman somehow. Especially on third Thursday, the night the festival kicks off. So this year I was Superboy. Last year I was Superman and Lois version of Superman, which is a series on this HBO right now.
Oh, I'll check that out. I didn't know about
I
that.
didn't know about that
Getting
either.
ready to start season 4, which will be the last season.
So we're 4 years behind on this, guys. Not good.
It's
Oh, binge
it's an
worthy.
amazing show, and that's where I got the inspiration for Bizarro as well. The years before, I've done Black Suit Superman, where he's got the beard and long hair, kind of the rebirth of Superman. Trying to think about other Kryptonian characters I've done. General Zod I've done a couple times.
Oh, have you?
The Christopher Reeve version
Yeah,
from
of course.
Superman 2.
The Christopher
Shiny
Reeves is
black,
perfect.
the only way to go.
I
Yeah.
remember you sent that picture when we did the advertisements for you for JuneCon.
Yeah, that was a
That was a good
super
one.
super easy costume to make.
Yeah.
But I also have costumes from across the DC universe, Green Arrow and characters from The Flash, and I just like costumes. So
How often do you get out to cons? Because I've seen you maybe at ICT. Obviously, you go to the Smallville now we call it, what do we, the Hutch
Hutch.
Comic Con. And then we have the Hutch Boo Comic Con. What day is that on? Excellent.
June
Glad you're
26th.
working for us. son.
26.
October
26.
26th.
Well,
I said June.
he's the creative lead. He actually has gave himself a title.
I didn't give myself, I swear.
So where
Very
else do you go to
For a real
cosplay?
title.
I like to go to Planet when I can. Usually that's kind of an expensive trip.
Oh, it's
so
not cheap to go
it's-
there.
I didn't get to go this year. I do plan on going to ICT and maybe AirCap this year. But I'm really looking forward to Boo Comic Con because I can step out of my DC costumes and do something a little different. For
So you got
once.
a plan for that?
Not yet,
But you're thinking.
but I am actively trying to think of a not too scary Halloween themed costume. But it could be comic book related.
Yeah, we go back and forth. So we were talking about maybe doing something. Then we keep getting reminded you work there. You need to have something that identifies you.
Yeah.
It's
we
all
can-
right. Most of my stuff goes with a red T-shirt, anyways.
Yeah, stuff goes with the red T-shirt. So we might do hats. I don't know. What do you think, creative lead?
Yeah, bright red hat with the little spinny thing as a knackle.
Yes.
I think Wyatt should shave his head.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we're onto something there.
We've got clippers at home, sweetie. We
That's
can
right.
do that.
Because nothing wrong with
It'll
doing it
grow
that way.
back. Trust me.
It will. At some point. Lex Luthor, he could be like your mini Lex
There you
Luthor.
go.
Yay!
I think we figured something out. Paulie's laughing at that one. I think Paulie's making a mental note on that deal right there.
I don't know if we want to turn this guy into Lex Luthor.
Yeah, he's like a half step away from it, anyways.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he is definitely the smartest guy in
It's
the
okay,
room.
sweetie.
Ain't nothing wrong with
Always.
that either,
we
buddy.
still love
Always.
you.
We love you
Smartest.
for it.
Quick comic book fact. There's only one person in the DC universe that's smarter than Batman. It's Lex Luthor.
Oh, really?
Really? Isn't there like
Have they ever clashed?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. See, I'm not caught up on this stuff.
Justice League. Lex
Justice League.
Luthor usually goes against.
I'm going to go
all
back to it. There's only one Lex
Nice.
Luthor. It's Gene Hackman. Period. End of story. I mean, when he throws that kryptonite around his neck, it's over. He wasn't smart enough to hang out. He should have stayed around. But every time he put on a wig, tell me that wasn't brilliant acting at that point.
He always trusted his sidekicks a little too much
A little
and left
bit.
them alone.
I know the feeling.
Why look at me?
So how do you see Smallville festivals evolving? What would be like the end goal that you look back and say this is what my dream has been? So I know we're stepping toward it and we talk about the growth, but what would it be the big dream?
Well, this being year 11 that we did it, it's grown into something that I never could fathom in the beginning anyway. So I think it's already gone beyond what I could ever dream of. Now, what I would love to see happen is us turn into an actual tourist destination like Metropolis, Illinois, and get a
Okay.
statue
That'd be
downtown
cool.
somewhere of Clark Kent or Superboy or Crypto the Superdog or Supergirl, and have a spot where we can say this statue represents Hutchinson as Smallville, Kansas.
The center point of really it would make sense. I'm just spitballing here since we've got time. The little bridge over here where the flowers are, those are nice during the summer. That'd look pretty good with the Christopher Reeves flying Superman in bronze. Just throwing it out there.
In bronze.
What are we talking about? A few $100s there? We just gonna
Oh, I think it's a little bit more than that. But I will tell you something interesting about that whole area, Avenue A Park. Another goal of mine would be to rename that park Smallville Park.
Oh.
Because it is the only park in this town that isn't named after something specific. It's just named after the street. And if you go walk around that park, you will find the diamond-shaped shield in the concrete over 100 times.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, what does it take to get that push? I mean, have you tried?
I have tried.
They just didn't like that
There-
idea.
At the time, there was another park that was being pursued by another group in the city, and I wasn't aware of it at that time. So we both presented our ideas to city council, and they put it up to a public vote. And I think the vote was 50% said leave this park alone. About 50%. And it was 26 and 25% for the other two ideas. So there's about a quarter of people who voted who like the idea. We just need to push it out there a little more and see what can happen.
Well, maybe we make
Yeah.
that something we do at the BooCon, start getting a committee together, go and start harassing people on that. Because here, I'm just, again, spitballing. But you got the water jets and all that during the summer. Leave those on, Fortress of Solitude, boom, in the winter. Am I right?
It would freeze up and look pretty cool.
It would look
would.
really cool. Sneak a Superman statue
I
in
don't
there.
I don't know if the Parks Department would like that. But
They'd have to have a guy probably stop by every once in a while. So the goal would be to change that. I think that's a great idea because then you just center point that for the festival every June.
well, yeah, and that's where I had the first festival. So I have a real connection to this park that we're next to. And even if you go across the street, behind the building across the street, there's a mural, and it has a Smallville phone booth in the mural.
Yes.
So there is actually some spots here in town where you can take some photos to show that you were in Smallville. But I think a statue is the end game in my mind.
I think something that's prominent, like you talk about Metropolis drawing people in, and economic impact is always something. I'm getting into the business weeds, so stop me if I'm going out of my lane. But you take a Smallville Festival and you break it even down even further to the different events. That draws people, that brings people into Hutchinson to spend money in our city. If you had something that would be a destination, because here's an example: how many people does Mark at Toy Depot draw in every year that buy lunch, get some gasoline, maybe stop by the pizza place, run across the street to the antique? See, that those little things add up. When you have a bunch of Marks, you have Smallville Festival, you have a con, those things start to add up. A statue would do the same thing.
Yeah, and when I started it, I hoped that eventually I would get the Cosmosphere and Stratica involved, because they were kind of reference points of why we were Smallville. I mean, the Cosmosphere is one of the biggest space museums in the country. Well, if this is Smallville and Kal-El crashed a ship here, where would you put it? In a space museum.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so there's similarities with some attractions, but to see those organizations come in, and they were all a part of it this year. So there's buy-in from the community and the organizations. It just needs to, I think the messaging needs to go out to a more national level, and we could get a lot more people in as tourists.
When you go back to the national, so 2013, you threw this up in the air and it went a little bit viral, and then it went viral, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing can repeat itself to a certain extent, maybe even more or less, but any exposure to Hutch in a positive light, I think that does it. I think the Smallville Festival needs to expand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we already have two of the biggest attractions in the nation. I think two of the top 100,
Oh,
Seriously?
wow.
which is the Cosmosphere and the Stratica Underground Museum. So,
Yeah. Outside of the Smithsonian, Wyatt, there's not a better collection of space artifacts in the world. Not even in Russia. And they shot dogs up there.
we
They
we
bring
have
back
a lot
the
of their
dog?
stuff.
Yeah. Have you ever go by their storage?
Oh yeah.
I'd love driving by there.
Yeah.
Over off Avenue. Well, it'd be 2nd Avenue.
Yeah.
Pretty well west. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
cool place. So we're going to wrap this up. We're at the Board and Brush. Angie, big thank you to you, because you're probably listening to this podcast with a smile on your face. Board and Brush, DIY wood
He's over
signs and
there.
wood projects. You can create awesome stuff without buying the supplies. That's the key to it. They are getting ready for Third Thursday, so that's why we've got to wrap this up. Christopher, we're going to have you into the studio at the house. And we're going to sit down and do a longer. I want you to bring your material, because what you rolled out at the Comic Con was phenomenal. You had enough booth space, but you could have used more.
Yeah. It's
think-
been 11 years. You collect a lot of stuff.
Well, and I like how important it is to you, and you're passionate. And you talked about the buy-in when they broke the mask out, because we have not been to a city council meeting before, and they break out the mask, and all of them were bought into it. That was awesome.
That was the first that they've all done that. So you picked a good one to go to.
Now, did you
was
know
so
that was going to
neat.
happen before?
I did not know that was going to
Okay,
happen.
so that caught you a little off guard.
Yeah, and it was a very pleasant surprise.
Maybe
Yeah,
next time they'll have the capes too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Kim,
maybe next year.
yeah, Kim leaned in and goes, "We forgot our mask." I said, "I don't think we were supposed to bring one, Kim." She was pretty insistent.
I was in costume enough for everybody, I think.
you did roll it. Well, guys, thank you very much. This has been a NACL Comic Con podcast. He wants NACL in there, or as Wyatt does it. How do you do it, Wyatt? NACL. What?
Knuckle. I don't know why. Those were
Comic Con.